This is Professor Russell James coming to you from Texas Tech University. Welcome to today's lecture from Visual Plan Giving, an introduction to the law and taxation of charitable gift planning. Welcome to Charitable Lead Trusts Part 2, Tax Calculations. This is Professor Russell James at Texas Tech University. At the time of the transfer to a non-grantor charitable lead trust, the donor must pay gift taxes on the value of the transfer less the present value of the payments projected to go to charity. The projected value of the amount going to charity is not taxed. The rest, which is the present value of the projected amount going to heirs or other people, is taxed. Thus, calculating the taxable part of the transfer can be determined by estimating the non-taxable part of the transfer. In other words, the present value of the projected payments going to charity. What is the process for estimating the present value of the projected payments to charity? It is identical to the process for estimating the present value of the projected payments to the non-charitable beneficiaries in a charitable remainder trust. This makes sense because the charitable and non-charitable beneficiaries switch places in a charitable lead trust as compared with a charitable remainder trust. The value of an annuity or unitrust payment in a charitable remainder trust is the same as the value of the same annuity or unitrust payment in a charitable lead trust, only the recipient changes. Determining the value of the annuity payments in a charitable lead trust, in other words, the part not subject to gift or estate taxes, requires first, finding the Section 7520 interest rate, and second, multiplying the annuity payment by the annuity factor in IRS Publication 1457 for that Section 7520 interest rate. Consider the example of a non-grantor charitable lead annuity trust created on January 31, 2015, paying $1 million per year to charity for 11 years. What is the present value of these charitable annuity payments? In other words, the part that's not subject to gift taxes. Calculating this first requires finding the Section 7520 interest rate. These rates are issued monthly and can be found on the IRS website or on other plan giving websites. The donor may use the Section 7520 interest rate for the month of the transaction or either of the 2 previous months. Thus, the donor in this case may use the interest rates for January, December, or November. Of course, by late in January, the future rates for February would also have been posted, so the donor could have delayed the transaction into February in order to take advantage of the February rates if desired. For a transaction completed on January 31, 2015, the donor would need to choose between a 2.2% and a 2.0% Section 7520 interest rate. Which one is better for the donor? As interest rates rise, the value of a fixed dollar annuity decreases. Consider the value of an annuity that paid $1,000 per year when interest rates were 1%. An investor would have to invest $100,000 to generate that same income stream at 1%. However, if interest rates were 10%, an investor would have to invest only 10% to generate that same income stream. Thus, the value of the income stream, that is the annuity, is higher when interest rates are low and lower when interest rates are high. Is the donor better off having the annuity valued higher or lower? In a charitable lead annuity trust, the annuity is the part that goes to charity. The value of the portion that goes to charity is not subject to gift or estate taxes in a non-grantor charitable lead trust. So the donor is better off having a higher valuation for this charitable portion, meaning a higher valuation for the annuity. Returning to the 2 options for the Section 7520 interest rate of 2.0% or 2.2%, the donor is better off choosing the lowest rate. Thus, for this calculation, the donor should choose the 2.0% rate in order to get the highest annuity valuation and therefore the lowest gift tax. This 2.0% interest rate will be used for all calculations for this transaction, even though during the life of the trust, the interest rates may fluctuate greatly. Only the initial 75/20 interest rate is relevant to the tax calculation. Once the appropriate Section 75/20 interest rate is identified, the value of the annuity can be determined from the table associated with IRS Publication 1457, which can be found on the web at the IRS website. In this case, the annuity will be paid for a fixed number of years, so we select Table B, Term Certain Factors. If instead the annuity was to be paid for life, we would select Table S for a single life or Table R2 for 2 lives. These tables are also found on the same web page. Examining Table B under the 2.0% interest rate heading shows that the annuity factor for an 11-year fixed term at that interest rate is 9.7868. Assuming that the annuity pays annually, the value of the annuity is simply this annuity factor, 9.7868, multiplied by the annual annuity payment, in this case $1 million. Thus, the value of this annuity is $9,786,800. If the annuity paid more frequently than at the end of each year, then it would be slightly more valuable. It's more valuable because the recipient gets the money slightly earlier. For example, if the annuity were paid monthly, still with an initial Section 75/20 interest rate of 2.0%, the value of the annuity would be $9,786,800 multiplied by 1.0091, or $9,875,859.88. This adjustment factor of 1.0091 comes from Table K on the previous website, and it varies with the payment frequency and the Section 75/20 rate. Suppose that the donor transferred $10 million to this non-grantor charitable lead annuity trust on January 31st of 2015. The projected value of the charitable share based upon 11 years of $1 million payments would be $9,786,800, as described previously. This leaves a projected gift to the donor's heirs, or whomever the donor names to receive the receiving amount, with a present value of $10 million less $9,786,800. Thus, the present value of the projected taxable gift to the heirs would be only $213,200. If, during the life of the trust, the assets in the trust grow at a rate of 2.0%, equal to the initial Section 75/20 interest rate, this projection will be accurate. However, if the assets in the trust grow at a rate faster than the 2%, this extra growth will go to the heirs without additional gift or estate taxation. For example, if the assets in the trust grew at a rate of 8%, the actual amount transferred to the heirs would be $6,670,902.51. This demonstrates the power of the non-grantor charitable lead trust. The donor would transfer over $6.6 million in value to the heirs, but pay gift taxes on only $213,200. In the previous example, the present value of the amount projected to go to heirs based on the Section 75/20 interest rate was only $213,200. However, the donor could easily set the payments to charity such that the projected amount going to the heirs would be $0. This zeroed out non-grantor charitable lead trust results in no gift or estate taxation, regardless of the size of the actual transfer going to the heirs. Using a zeroed-out charitable lead trust also eliminates the risk of paying unnecessary taxes if the trust assets underperform the initial Section 75/20 interest rate. If the trust assets ultimately grew at a rate lower than the initial Section 75/20 interest rate, then the trust would simply exhaust earlier than its intended term, with no payments to non-charitable beneficiaries. But since no gift taxes were paid, the donor does not risk overpaying gift taxes due to the underperformance. The calculation process for a zeroed-out charitable lead annuity trust is the same as before. In this case, the donor transfers $10 million into a non-grantor charitable lead annuity trust, which pays $1,021,785 per year to charity for 11 years. The present value of this series of annual payments at a 2.0% Section 7520 interest rate is $10,005. This exceeds the value of the trust assets of $10 million. Thus, if the trust assets return exactly 2.0% during the life of the trust, there will be nothing left over after the final charitable payment is made. If, however, the trust assets grow faster than 2.0%, any excess growth is transferred to the heirs or other non-charitable beneficiaries. This transfer of extra growth occurs without any gift or estate taxation. As before, the donor must pay gift taxes on the present value of the amount projected to go to the heirs. But because $0 is projected to go to the heirs, there are no gift taxes. Any amount that actually goes to the heirs due to growth above the initial Section 7520 interest rate also avoids taxation because the gift tax of $0 has already been paid. Conceptually, this might seem to be a lot of effort to go through just to be able to transfer the, quote, extra growth above the Section 7520 rate. But consider that in the previous example, if the $10 million transfer grew at 8% instead of the Section 7520 rate of 2%, this transaction results in $6,308,281 being transferred to the heirs with no gift or estate taxes. For a donor at top tax rates, gifting that much after-tax money to heirs would otherwise have come at a cost of over $2.5 million in gift taxes or $4.2 million in estate taxes. The estate tax cost of transferring this much after-tax money is higher than the gift tax cost because estate taxes also apply to the money used to pay for the estate tax. In other words, estate taxes are tax inclusive. For example, the donor would need to leave $10.5 million in the estate for heirs so that after paying the 40% estate tax of $4.2 million, the heirs would receive $6.3 million. For those subject to estate and gift taxes, this benefit is well worth the planning, even for smaller transactions. For example, a $500,000 zeroed out non-grantor charitable lead annuity trust earning 5% could transfer $315,414 to heirs after taxes, which otherwise would have cost $210,276 in estate taxes. This tax savings is especially attractive to a donor who is already planning to make these charitable transfers. In that case, the ability to gift the extra growth to heirs with no gift or estate tax is a free benefit, available simply by using the non-grantor charitable lead trust as the charitable gifting mechanism. This is one of the reasons why testamentary zeroed out non-grantor charitable lead trusts are so attractive. For any taxable estate where the donor has already planned a substantial charitable estate gift, transferring the gift in the form of a testamentary zeroed out non-grantor charitable lead trust provides the opportunity for tax-free transfers to heirs with no downside risk to the heirs. Because the non-grantor charitable lead trust provides the opportunities to transfer extra growth above the Section 7520 interest rate, free from estate and gift taxes, the value of this technique depends upon the growth rate of assets in the trust. If clients have assets that they anticipate will grow more rapidly in future years, these are the assets most suited for a non-grantor charitable lead trust. This has been Charitable Lead Trust Part 2, Tax Calculations. Join us next time for Charitable Lead Trust Part 3, Special Trust Types.